draw your attention to a special type of application problem when it comes to midpoint. We have learned that the midpoint of a line is defined by the formula m x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2, where the x1 and y1 and x2 and y2 represent the coordinates of the endpoint of that line segment. Now, in this example, I have a line segment DE, and as always, please draw a sketch of your specific problem. So this is my line segment D and E, and D is a point defined by the coordinates 6 and 5. For this line segment, I do know the midpoint of the line, which is M, defined by the coordinates 4 and 2. And the problem is asking me to find the coordinates of the point E. Now, like everything else, we have to find out what the problem is asking me, what do I have that can help me in solving the problem, and what are the steps required to find what the problem is asking me to do. So let's start first with what the problem is asking me to do. I know the coordinates of one endpoint and the midpoint, and I am trying to find out the coordinates of the other endpoint. Let's label what we know we have for sure. As in any line segment, we have a point 1 and a point 2. Right? A segment is the distance between 2 points. Now in point 1 on the coordinate system, we define it by having a x and a y coordinate. So 6 would be x1 and 5 would be y1. Now since for E we are not given any values, we can just define it by x2 and y2. The other thing that I know is I know the x-coordinates in the midpoint, and I know the y-coordinates in the midpoint. And I know that whenever I'm asked to find that midpoint, to find the x, I have to apply x1 plus x2 over 2. And whenever I have to find out y in the midpoint, I have to apply y1 plus y2 over 2. Now, what do we know in the problem? Well, I know the x of the midpoint, and I know x1. For the y's, the thing that I know in the midpoint is the y value of that midpoint. I do know it, it's 2. And I do know y1 in the formula. So if I look at my setup here, I do discover that if I form equations between the x of the midpoint and its corresponding formula, I can have a one-variable equation in which I can extract x2. So 4, which represents the x-coordinate of the midpoint, equals x1, which is 6, plus x2 over 2. And for the y's, we can have 2 equals y1, which is 5, plus y2 over 2. Now remember in class we have discussed different ways to extract a variable, especially when we deal with fractions. Personally, I prefer cross multiplication across the equal sign, but if you are not comfortable with it, the other good method is to multiply the entire equation with 2 with a denominator to get rid of that denominator. So after cross multiplying, I have 4 times 2 is 8, equals 6 plus x2, which means that x2 equals 2. And after cross multiplying over here, I have 4 equals 5 plus y2, or y2 equals -1. And now I have found what the problem was asking me in the first point, the coordinates of the other endpoint, which are 2 and -1.